A right-wing radio host is having some regrets about not getting the COVID-19 vaccine. Like many other members of the far right, Phil Valentine not only refused to get the vaccine, but also, of course, downplayed COVID-19 on his show. I'm going to give you some examples of that. Back in December, he tweeted this. He said, I have a very low risk of A, getting COVID, and B, dying of it if I do. Why would I risk getting a heart attack or paralysis by getting the vaccine? Now, of course, he's talking about adverse effects of the vaccine, which, yes, have been recorded, but they've been recorded at incredibly low incidences. Whereas, of course, dying from COVID or getting sick with COVID and having significant symptoms, long-lasting symptoms, there's long-haul COVID, you're much more likely to have to deal with that if you don't get the vaccine. And so that's why if you're looking at mitigating risk, you're safer off going with the vaccine because there's just less risk in taking it than it is doing obviously what he's doing. And I'm going to show you how that ended up. But first, he also said back in April, quote tweeting this. This is what he quote tweeted and responded to. Forced inoculation of an experimental vaccine, no consent, no FDA approval / long-term data, and the J&J, the Johnson & Johnson, which has now been federally halted. CA, Operation Homebound, criminal, #criminal. All right, so look, the J&J, Johnson & Johnson did get halted. Out of 12.8 million doses of the vaccine that were given out, you had about 100 reported adverse effects that were fairly serious. So now, okay, 100 out of 12.8 million, that just shows you how serious that they're actually taking these possible, interactions or not interactions, sorry, but, taking these adverse reactions, right? They're taking it incredibly seriously because they want to put out something that's safe and that helps them with their stocks and all that stuff, as well as their PR, their reputation. So now, anyway, he quote tweeted that and said, I'm avoiding Twitter, but I just had to let you see this. It should scare the hell out of everybody. To that I say, well, yeah, that's the whole point. The whole point of putting out that nonsense is to scare gullible rubes. Honestly, look, I've told you over and over again, nobody's out there, forcing people to get vaccines. We think you should, but we can't just jam it into people's arms. We know that. You should all know that. And that's never going to happen. But what we could do and should do is encourage people with the facts to go and get vaccinated. Now, unfortunately, in order to do that, you have to continue to counter a mountain of bullshit, which is what, of course, he's tweeting out. So now there's a limit, of course, in how much that works, how much you can actually fight against that. But what does seem to work in many cases, and look, I showed you a video yesterday of a man who got sick with COVID. It was all over Twitter. Got sick with COVID in the hospital. And, he's like, well, I'm still not getting the vaccine. Okay. All right. Well, again, there's only so much, mileage you get out of trying to tell the truth about the vaccine, as well as people having to experience it for themselves. But generally, you do see a lot of stories of people who do get it, who do get COVID-19 and say, oh man, I thought this was a hoax. It turns out this is real. It's real as a heart attack. And so, yeah, get your vaccine. And so this guy is one of those stories, and I've got another one as well. So now the family of right-wing radio host Phil Valentine reports that he had been hospitalized from the coronavirus is in very serious condition, according to WKRN-TV. I just had a thought, random thought. WKRN. Random thoughts, I know. But anyway, serious story. He is being treated, Mr. Valentine, for COVID pneumonia. in the critical care unit of Nashville Hospital, according to his family. On July 11th, Valentine revealed that he had tested positive for coronavirus. And here's what he said, quote, "Yes, the rumors are true. I have COVID. Unfortunately for the haters out there, it looks like I'm going to make it. Interesting experience." Well, I guess that's one way to put it. Now, he says, "I'll have to fill you in when I come back on the air. I'm hoping that will be tomorrow, but I may take a day off just as precaution." That was back, it said, again, on July 11th. That was nearly 2 weeks ago. That guy ain't back on the air, guaranteed, because he's right now sitting in the hospital in severe condition. Turns out, COVID, much more serious than he realized, and how many times do we have to tell this story? It's the same thing. Herman Cain literally died. But he's like, "Oh, I got COVID. I'm fine. Everything's going fine. I'm in the hospital. I'm recovering. I'll be out in, very, very soon." Yes. And then it turns out, no, he wasn't out very soon. Well, at least not alive. No, he came out of the hospital in a body bag. That's what happens. Now, the network noted that Valentine had been, quote, critical of the vaccine, voicing his concerns over safety. However, his family now says that he regrets putting out misinformation. Quote, "Phil would like for his listeners to know that while he has never been anti-vaxxer," oh, really? That sounds kind of anti-vaxxerish, the kind of stuff that he was talking about. He regrets not being more vehemently pro-vaccine and looks forward to being able to more vigorously advocate that position as soon as he is back on the air, which we all hope will be soon. Please continue to pray for his recovery, and please go get vaccinated, his family added. Now look, hey, I hope the guy learned his lesson. I hope he makes a recovery and does exactly what he says he's going to do. Go back and say, "Hey, look, this is no joke. This virus is not fucking around." Because we were not fucking around when we say the virus is real. And by we, I mean doctors, scientists, epidemiologists, as well as people who talk about this stuff, like myself. We're not messing with you. We are not trying to screw around with you. Look, you think that we're out here pleading with people to take the virus seriously and get vaccinated because what we want to run your fucking life? I can barely run my own life. Well, what do I want to deal with yours? You think I want to control what you do? No. You know what? I don't want to see people die needlessly. That's what I care about, okay? Or give birth to, any sort of deadlier or worse variants and end up being sick, getting sick from that myself, okay? That's it. Yeah, call it enlightened self-interest in some cases. But I don't want to see people suffer. I don't want to see people die. And yeah, it's the bleeding heart live in me. Understand, yes, I'm a very empathetic person. And I don't want people to have to go through this bullshit. This is why I'm trying to fight. I'm trying to fight on your behalf. I'm trying to help you, whether you want it or not. And so it's not a conspiracy to control you. It's to try to keep me and my family, my loved ones, safe, and to try to get back to doing some of the things that I love to do without worrying about getting other people sick like that with this virus. That is just more than the common cold. That is a lot more than just the flu. It isn't deadly. It has killed over 600,000 Americans. So, look, the stuff that you took for granted, by the way, people like this guy, and the anti-maskers and the anti-vaxxers, while the rest of us were locked down, that while we buckled down and tried to do the responsible thing like a goddamn adult, okay, you took advantage of that. You took that for granted. We did the right thing. And even if you had acted like an adult, by the way, during the lockdowns, that doesn't mean that you can get away with not getting your vaccine. Look what happened to 56-year-old former nurse Christy Henry. Here's what she said to CNN. She said that she had worn a mask in public and rarely came into contact with other people. So she, self-quarantined essentially, or, didn't go out in big crowds, didn't go to super spreader events. She wore the mask when she had to go out. But after the vaccine came out and was widely distributed, she decided not to take it. Her and her family said, oh, we don't need it. Wow. In fact, she said that she felt because of their rural location and lifestyle, their risk of exposure to this virus was low. However, she began to feel unwell about 3 weeks ago. Turns out she ended up getting coronavirus. Here's what she told CNN, quote, "Never in a million years do you think it's going to happen to you." But it did. Her family did not have any gatherings on the 4th of July. She's not even sure how she got infected. But now she and her husband, Lonnie, are in the hospital recovering from COVID-19, while one of her 6 children also tested positive and avoided hospitalization. Lonnie is currently on a ventilator. Christy herself had been intubated for at least 2 days. Her doctor told her that she was lucky to be alive. Her words on that from her hospital bed, quote, "COVID-19 is extremely, extremely serious. Please get vaccinated." These are facts. It's not a liberal hoax. It's not political. It's not some conspiracy. This is real. The Delta variant is incredibly contagious. It is a disease now of the unvaccinated, and it doesn't have to be. You may think you're safe, but you're not. This thing does not mess around. For God's sakes, get your vaccine. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.